Amelia Carter never imagined that saving her dying mother would cost her everything: her freedom, her pride, and eventually, her heart. When a mysterious debt collector offered her a deal she couldn't refuse, she signed away a year of her life to a powerful African king, telling herself she'd never fall in love. But in a palace full of whispers and hidden agendas, one misunderstood letter would shatter the fragile trust between them, leaving her cast out and broken. What Amelia didn't know was that the king was already racing through the city to find her, because some mistakes can't be undone with money or power, only with truth. This is a story about sacrifice, betrayal, and the kind of love that refuses to stay buried. Subscribe and comment below if you've ever had to choose between your heart and your family, because this story is about to show you what happens when that choice tears you apart. The apartment smelled like old carpet and the faint lemon cleaner Amelia used every Saturday morning. She sat at the scratched kitchen table, a single lamp throwing shadows across the papers spread before her. Her hands trembled as she signed her name on the last page. "That's it then," Mr. Hargrove said. His voice was flat, businesslike. He was a thin man, with grey hair combed too carefully to one side. He wore a suit that had seen better days, and he didn't smile. "1 year of companionship to King Cairo Adewale. The full amount will be wired to your mother's medical accounts tonight." Amelia's pen hovered over the paper. 1 year. 12 months of her life, sold like a used car or a piece of furniture. But the number at the bottom of the page, the number that would erase every bill, every collections notice, every sleepless night, made her throat tight. She signed. Mr. Hargrove collected the papers with efficient hands, slid them into his leather folder and stood. "A car will arrive at 9 o'clock. Pack light. Everything you need will be provided." He left without another word. Amelia sat in the sudden silence, staring at the copy of the contract he'd left behind. The words blurred together: companionship, discretion, 1 year. She folded the receipt, proof that the payment had cleared, and tucked it beneath the old tea tin on the counter, the one her mother used every morning. Then she walked down the narrow hallway to her mother's bedroom. Evelyn Carter lay propped against 3 pillows, her breathing soft and steady. The oxygen machine hummed in the corner. She looked so small in that bed, so fragile. Her hair, once dark and thick, had gone silver grey. Her hands, folded on the blanket, were thin as bird bones. "Mama," Amelia whispered. Evelyn's eyes opened and a smile touched her lips. "There you are, sweetheart." Amelia sat on the edge of the bed and took her mother's hand. It felt cool and papery. "Mama, I have good news. Really good news." "Oh, I got a scholarship. A big one. Enough to cover everything, the hospital bills, the treatment, all of it. It came through today." Evelyn's eyes widened. "Oh, Amelia. Oh, honey, that's—" Her voice cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "That's a miracle." Amelia swallowed hard. "You don't have to worry anymore about money or doctors or any of it. It's all taken care of. But what about you? What about your life?" "I'll be fine, Mama. I'm going away for a little while, for school, but I'll call you every week, I promise." Evelyn squeezed her daughter's hand. "You're such a good girl, Amelia. I don't know what I did to deserve you." Amelia kissed her mother's forehead, breathing in the faint smell of lavender lotion. "You rest now, okay? I'll check in tomorrow." She walked back to her own room and pulled a small duffel bag from the closet. She didn't have much to pack. A few shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, a sweater, her phone charger, a photo of her and her mother from 5 years ago, back when Evelyn's cheeks had color and her laugh came easy. At 9 o'clock, headlights swept across the living room wall. Amelia shouldered the duffel and stepped outside. The air was cool and smelled like rain. A black sedan idled at the curb, sleek and expensive. A driver in a dark suit opened the rear door without a word. She climbed in. The leather seats were soft, the interior spotless. The door closed with a heavy, final sound. As the car pulled away, Amelia looked back at the apartment building, at the dim yellow light in her mother's window. Then she turned forward, clutched the duffel on her lap, and whispered to herself in the dark, "I won't love him." The city lights blurred past one by one until there was only the hum of the engine and the vast empty night ahead. 20 minutes later, the sedan slowed. Amelia looked up. They were passing through tall iron gates, ornate and gleaming even in the dark. Beyond them, a wide drive curved through manicured gardens. Lanterns lined the path, their light warm and golden. And then the palace came into view. It wasn't like anything she'd imagined. She'd pictured something old and grand, maybe, or cold and imposing. But this place was modern and elegant, glass and stone and clean lines. Wings stretched out on either side of the main entrance, each window glowing softly. Fountains sparkled in the courtyard. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the low rhythmic beat of drums. The car stopped at the base of a wide staircase. The driver opened her door. Amelia stepped out, her legs stiff, her heart pounding. The air smelled like jasmine and wet stone. "This way, please." A woman stood at the top of the stairs. She was young, maybe Amelia's age, with warm brown skin and a kind smile. She wore a simple cream-colored dress, her hair wrapped in a bright patterned cloth. "I'm Lena," the woman said as Amelia climbed toward her. "I'll be helping you settle in. Welcome." "Thank you," Amelia managed. Lena led her through the entrance hall. The floors were cool marble, polished to a shine. The walls were hung with art, bold colors, sweeping lines. Everything felt open and airy, but also impossibly grand. Amelia's sneakers squeaked softly with each step. "There are a few rules," Lena said gently. "Nothing too complicated. You'll have your own suite. Meals are usually served in the dining hall, but you can request room service anytime. The king values privacy and discretion. If you need anything, you can call me." Amelia nodded, though her mind was spinning. They walked down a long corridor and stopped at a set of double doors. Lena pushed them open. The suite was beautiful. A wide bed with soft white linens, a sitting area with plush chairs and a low table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. Everything smelled faintly of lavender. "There's a closet through that door," Lena said, "and a bathroom on the left. Take your time getting comfortable." She set a small card on the table. Amelia picked it up. "We dine at 10. Kay. He likes punctuality," Lena added with a small smile. "But he's not unkind, you'll see." Then she was gone, the door clicking softly shut. Amelia stood in the center of the room, her duffel still hanging from one shoulder. She looked around slowly, at the silk curtains, the soft rugs, the crystal lamp on the nightstand. It was more luxury than she'd ever known, but it didn't feel like freedom. She set the duffel on the bed, washed her face in the marble bathroom, and changed into the only dress she owned, a simple navy blue thing she'd worn to her high school graduation. At 9:58, she stood at the door, smoothing her hands over the fabric. At 9:59, a knock sounded. A guard in formal dress stood in the hallway. He nodded once. "This way." She followed him back through the corridors, her heart climbing into her throat. They stopped at a set of tall doors carved with intricate patterns. The guard opened them without a word. Inside was a dining room, a long table stretched down the center set with candles and fine china. At the far end, a man sat alone. Amelia's breath caught. King Cairo Adewale. He stood as she entered, and for a moment she could only stare. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a posture that commanded attention without effort. His skin was deep brown, smooth and flawless. His hair was cut close, his jaw strong. He wore a tailored shirt, the sleeves rolled to his forearms and dark slacks. But it was his eyes that held her. Dark, steady, intelligent. Eyes that seemed to see everything. "Miss Carter," he said. His voice was low, warm, but distant. "Please, sit." She walked to the chair he indicated, her legs unsteady. A server appeared from nowhere, pouring water into her glass. Cairo sat across from her. The candlelight flickered between them. "I trust your mother's accounts have been settled," he said. "Yes," Amelia said quietly. "Thank you." "Good." He nodded once. "Then we understand each other." Silence stretched. Amelia folded her hands in her lap. She didn't know where to look, what to say. The man across from her was a king, a ruler, and she was, what? A transaction, a year-long arrangement. "There are boundaries," Cairo continued, "for both of us. You will have your privacy. You will be safe here. In return, I expect discretion. No public spectacle, no questions from outsiders." "I understand. You may call your mother once a week, supervised, for security." Her chest tightened. "Once a week?" "Yes." She lifted her chin. "Then I have a condition, too." His eyebrows rose slightly. "I want to call her twice a week and not supervised. I won't talk about anything here, but I need to hear her voice." For a long moment he studied her. Then he nodded. "Agreed." A server brought the first course, soup in delicate bowls. Amelia picked up her spoon, but her hands shook. "This doesn't have to be difficult," Cairo said quietly. "I'm not a cruel man. I didn't think you were. But you're afraid of me." She met his eyes. "I'm afraid of what this is." Something flickered across his face. Understanding, maybe, or regret. But it was gone in an instant. They ate in silence. When the meal ended, Amelia stood. Thank you for dinner. Good night, Miss Carter. She turned toward the door. As she passed a side table, she heard a low voice behind her, one of the courtiers who'd been standing in the shadows. Bought company, the man muttered. How dignified. Amelia froze. Behind her, she heard Cairo's chair scrape back. The corridor outside the dining hall was dim and quiet. Amelia's heels clicked softly on the marble. Her face burned. Bought company. The words echoed in her head, cruel and true. She heard footsteps behind her. Fast. Purposeful. Miss Carter. She turned. Cairo stood a few paces away, his expression hard. Behind him, the courtier who'd spoken stood rigid, his face pale. You will address her properly, Cairo said, his voice cold and steady. Miss Carter is my honored guest. You will treat her with respect, is that understood? The courtier bowed low. Yes, Your Majesty. My apologies. Leave. The man hurried away. Amelia stood frozen, her heart hammering. Cairo turned to her, and for the first time she saw something softer in his eyes. Not quite kindness, but close. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yes, he said. I did. They stood in the dim hallway, the air between them charged and strange. Good night, Miss Carter, he said again. But this time his voice was gentle. She nodded and walked away, her pulse racing. Back in her suite, Amelia peeled off the dress and stepped into the shower. The water was hot, almost too hot, and she let it run over her shoulders until her skin turned pink. When she finally climbed into bed, the sheets felt impossibly soft, but sleep wouldn't come. She thought of her mother, tucked into that narrow bed at home. She thought of the contract in Mr. Hargrove's folder. She thought of Cairo's voice in the hallway. You will address her properly. And she thought of the way he'd looked at her, steady and searching, like he was trying to understand something he couldn't quite name. Hours passed. Finally, just after midnight, she gave up. She wrapped a robe around herself and stepped out onto the balcony. The night air was cool and sweet. The gardens below were dark, the fountains silent. She leaned against the railing and closed her eyes. That's when she heard it. A low sound, a shout, muffled but sharp. It came from the balcony next to hers. Amelia hesitated. It was none of her business. She should go back inside, but the sound came again, ragged, desperate. She crossed to the edge of her balcony and looked over. Cairo stood on the adjacent terrace, his hands braced on the railing, his head bowed, his shoulders shook. Your Majesty? She called softly. He didn't answer. She bit her lip, then climbed over the low partition between their balconies. Cairo? He turned sharply, his eyes unfocused. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His breath came fast and shallow. Hey, she said gently. Hey, it's okay, you're okay. His voice cracked. You're having a nightmare, but you're awake now. You're safe. She stepped closer, slowly, like she was approaching a wounded animal. Breathe with me, in and out, in and out. He stared at her, his chest heaving. Then, slowly, his breathing steadied. The wildness left his eyes. I'm sorry, he said hoarsely. You shouldn't have seen that. It's okay. He turned away, gripping the railing again. Everyone has nightmares. Not like this. Silence. Then, quietly, he said, I was engaged once, 5 years ago. She sold my secrets to a tabloid. For fame. For money. I trusted her and she used me. Amelia's chest ached. I'm sorry. I swore I'd never let anyone close again. He laughed bitterly. And here I am, paying someone to stay. She didn't know what to say. So she just stood there a few feet away, letting the night air settle around them. Finally, Cairo looked at her. Thank you. For this. Any time. She climbed back over to her own balcony and slipped inside, but as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her heart felt heavier than before, because she'd seen something in his eyes, something raw and real, and it scared her how much she wanted to reach for it. Morning light spilled through the gauze curtains, soft and golden. Amelia woke to the sound of birds and the faint hum of the palace coming to life. Someone knocked. Come in, she called, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Lena entered, carrying a tray. Good morning. I brought tea and pastries. You must be starving. Amelia sat up, blinking. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Lena set the tray on the small table and poured the tea. How was your first night? Quiet. Lena smiled. Good, that's good. She handed Amelia a cup. There are a few customs here you should know. Little things like how to greet the elders, how to sit at formal dinners. Nothing too hard. I don't want to embarrass him. You won't. He's not like that. Lena's eyes were warm. He seems hard, I know, but he's kind, you'll see. They spent the next hour talking about the palace routines, the staff, the best places to walk in the gardens. Lena taught her a simple greeting in the local dialect, and Amelia stumbled over the pronunciation until they both laughed. "That was terrible," Amelia said. "You'll get it." A knock sounded at the door. Lena answered it, and Amelia heard a low voice. Her stomach flipped. Cairo stepped inside. He wore casual clothes today, linen pants, a simple shirt, but he still carried himself like a king. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," Amelia replied, suddenly aware she was still in her robe. His lips twitched. "I heard you practicing. You sound like you're choking." Her mouth fell open. He smiled. Actually smiled. "I'm teasing." Lena bit back a laugh, and just like that, the tension broke. "Would you like to walk with me?" Cairo asked. "The shade garden is beautiful in the morning." Amelia nodded. "I'd like that." The shade garden was tucked behind the east wing, hidden by tall hedges and flowering vines. A stone path wound through clusters of ferns and jasmine. Water trickled somewhere nearby. Cairo walked beside her, his hands clasped behind his back. "I wanted to apologize," he said after a moment, "for last night, on the balcony." "You don't have to." "I do. You shouldn't have to comfort me." "Why not?" He glanced at her, surprised. "I mean it," she said. "You're human. You're allowed to have hard nights." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Tell me about yourself, your real self, not what's in a contract." So she did. She told him about growing up in a small apartment with her mother, about how her father left when she was 6, about working 2 jobs to pay for community college, then dropping out when her mother got sick, about the bills that piled up like snow. "I didn't have a choice," she said. "Not really. And yet you came anyway. For her, not for you." He nodded slowly. "I understand that." They walked in silence for a while. Then Cairo said, "I grew up in this palace. My father was a good king, but a distant father. I learned early that people wanted the crown, not the man. When my fiancé betrayed me, it confirmed what I already believed. That you can't trust anyone. That love is a luxury I can't afford." Amelia stopped walking. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Perhaps." They stood there in the dappled sunlight, the air thick with the scent of flowers. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of a nearby colonnade, Prince Malik watched them with narrowed eyes. That afternoon, Cairo met with Malik in his private study. The room was lined with books and maps, the desk piled with documents. "You seem distracted," Malik said, leaning against the window. "I'm fine." "It's the girl, isn't it?" Cairo's jaw tightened. "Her name is Amelia. I know her name." Malik crossed his arms. "I also know she's been asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "The accounts office. She wanted to know about releases and final transfers." Cairo frowned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know, but it's suspicious. She's only been here 2 days." Cairo rubbed his temples. "She's probably just checking that her mother's bills were paid, or she's planning something." "Malik, I'm trying to protect you. That's my job. And I'm telling you, something doesn't add up." Cairo said nothing. But doubt, small and sharp, lodged itself in his chest. That evening dinner was quieter. Cairo sat across from Amelia, polite but distant. The warmth from the morning walk was gone. She felt the shift immediately. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "No. You're lying." He looked up, surprised. "I can tell," she said. "You won't look at me." He set down his fork. "I'm just tired." She didn't believe him, but she didn't push. After dinner, she left quickly. The staff watched her with cool eyes, all except Lena, who gave her a small, sad smile. Back in her suite, Amelia pulled out the payment receipt and stared at it for a long time. Then she folded it carefully and slipped it into an envelope. She wrote her mother's name on the front. One day she'd give it to her, one day when all of this was over. She set it on the dresser and climbed into bed. Outside, the palace settled into night. Somewhere down the hall, Cairo sat at his desk, staring at a sealed pouch Malik had left behind. "You asked for certainty," the note read. "I'll find it." Cairo's hands curled into fists, and on her balcony, Amelia looked toward his lit window and whispered into the dark, "Please don't misread me." But the night gave no answer. The dining hall felt colder that evening. Amelia sat at the long table, her plate barely touched. Across from her, Cairo ate with mechanical precision, his eyes distant. The candles flickered between them, casting shadows that seemed to dance with secrets. She wanted to ask what had changed. She wanted to demand the truth, but the words stuck in her throat. When the meal ended, she stood quickly. "Good night. Good night, Miss Carter." Miss Carter, not Amelia. The formality stung more than she expected. She walked back to her suite, aware of the staff watching her. Their eyes followed her down the corridor, some curious, some cold. Only Lena offered a small wave as she passed. Inside her room, Amelia pulled out her phone and dialed her mother's number. It rang 4 times before Evelyn's soft voice answered. "Hello? Mama, it's me." "Oh, sweetheart, I was hoping you'd call. How's school?" Amelia's throat tightened. "It's good, really good. How are you feeling?" "Much better. Dr. Williams says my numbers are improving. Whatever that scholarship covered, it's working miracles." Evelyn's voice cracked with gratitude. "I can't believe how blessed we are. I'm glad, Mama, so glad." They talked for 20 minutes about the weather, about Evelyn's physical therapy, about the neighbor's new cat, normal things, safe things. When they finally said goodbye, Amelia held the phone against her chest and let herself cry. She cried for the lie she'd told, for the year she'd sold, for the way Cairo had looked through her at dinner, like she was a stranger again. Then she wiped her face, pulled out the envelope with the receipt, and tucked it into the bottom of her duffel bag. Proof, evidence, the truth, waiting for the day she could finally speak it. The next morning, Amelia found Lena in the courtyard. The sun was bright, the air already warm. Lena sat at a small table beneath a pergola, covered in flowering vines, sorting through linens. "Good morning," Amelia said. Lena looked up and smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" "Not really." Amelia sat down across from her. "Lena, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why are people looking at me differently?" Lena's hands stilled. She glanced around, then leaned closer. "There's talk. Just whispers, really. Nothing concrete." "What kind of talk? That you're here for money, that you're using him?" Amelia's stomach dropped. "But I'm not." "I know." Lena reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I don't believe it. But you know how people are. They see a young woman with a powerful man and they make assumptions. So what do I do? You hold your head high. You show them who you really are. And you don't let the whispers change you." Amelia nodded slowly. "Thank you." "Anytime," Lena smiled. "Now are you ready to practice those greetings again? Because last time was painful." Despite everything, Amelia laughed. Later that afternoon, Malik stood in Cairo's office, a sealed pouch in his hand. "I did some checking," Malik said carefully. "Called a few contacts, asked around." Cairo looked up from the document he'd been reviewing. "And? The debt collector, Hargrove. He's got a reputation. He brokers unusual arrangements, connects wealthy men with women who need money. I know all that, that's how she came here." "Yes, but there's more." Malik set the pouch on the desk. "Hargrove keeps detailed records, contracts, communications. And according to someone who used to work for him, your Miss Carter was very specific about payment terms." "Meaning?" "Meaning she negotiated. Hard. Made sure she'd have access to account information. Made sure she could track the transfers." Cairo frowned. So, why would someone who's just here to help her mother care so much about the financial details, unless she's planning to leverage them somehow? That's a leap. Is it? Malik's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm saying she's smart. And desperate people do desperate things." Cairo leaned back in his chair, his jaw tight. He thought of the way Amelia had looked at him in the garden. Open, honest. He thought of her voice on the balcony, guiding him out of his nightmare. But he also thought of the woman who'd betrayed him 5 years ago, the woman who'd smiled and lied and sold his secrets for a magazine cover. "Keep watching," Cairo said quietly. "But don't approach her, not yet," Malik nodded. "As you wish." When he left, Cairo sat alone in the silence, staring at the pouch on his desk. He didn't open it, but he didn't throw it away either. That evening there was a small cultural reception in the palace's east wing. Cairo had mentioned it at breakfast. Casual, just a few local dignitaries and artists. He'd asked Amelia to attend. She'd agreed, though her stomach twisted with nerves. Lena helped her dress. A simple but elegant gown in deep emerald green, borrowed from the palace wardrobe. Her hair was swept back, her face clean and natural. "You look beautiful," Lena said. "I look terrified." "Same thing sometimes." Amelia managed a weak smile. The reception was held in a large room with tall windows overlooking the gardens. Soft music played, strings and a gentle drum. About 30 people mingled, holding glasses of wine and sparkling water. Cairo stood near the center, speaking with an older woman in traditional dress. When he saw Amelia enter, he excused himself and crossed the room. "You came," he said. "You asked me to." He studied her for a moment, then offered his arm. "Come, I'll introduce you." They moved through the room together. Cairo introduced her as Miss Carter under my protection. The phrase was formal, almost old-fashioned, but it carried weight. People bowed their heads respectfully. Amelia spoke when spoken to, smiled when appropriate. She answered questions about where she was from, what she studied. She kept her answers simple and honest. One woman, a poet, Cairo explained, asked her what she thought of the palace. "It's beautiful," Amelia said, "but big. Sometimes I get lost." The woman laughed. "I've lived here my whole life and I still get lost." Another man, a painter, asked if she liked art. "I do. I don't know much about it, but I like how it makes me feel." "That's the best kind of appreciation," the painter said warmly. By the end of the evening, Amelia's cheeks ached from smiling, but she'd done it. She'd navigated the room with grace. As they left, Cairo offered his arm again. She hesitated, then took it. His arm was solid and warm. She felt the strength in it, the steadiness, and for a moment, walking beside him through the quiet corridor, she forgot that she was bought and paid for. She forgot everything except the way he glanced down at her, something soft flickering in his eyes. "You did well tonight," he said. "Thank you. I mean it. You were yourself. That's rare here." She didn't know what to say, so she just walked beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, until they reached her door. "Good night, Amelia," he said quietly. "Good night, Cairo." She stepped inside and closed the door, her heart pounding. Outside, Cairo stood in the hallway for a long moment, staring at the door. Then he turned and walked away. That night, rain came. It drummed against the windows, soft and steady. Amelia lay in bed, listening to the rhythm. She thought about calling her mother again, but it was too late. She thought about Cairo's arm beneath her hand, the way he'd looked at her, the softness she'd seen. She thought about the whispers in the palace, the way the staff watched her. And she thought about the contract in Mr. Hargrove's folder, the year she'd sold, the price she'd paid. Sleep came slowly. Sometime after midnight, she woke to the sound of shouting. She sat up, heart racing. The shout came again, closer this time, from the hallway. Amelia threw off the blanket and ran to the door. She yanked it open just in time to see a figure in dark clothes lunge toward Cairo, the glint of metal, a blade. "No!" Amelia screamed. She didn't think. She just moved. She shoved Cairo hard, throwing him off balance. The blade sliced through the air where he'd been standing a second before. The attacker stumbled. Security guards appeared from nowhere, shouting, grabbing the man. He struggled, then bolted down the corridor. The guards chased after him. Amelia stood frozen, her chest heaving. Cairo caught himself against the wall, his eyes wide. Are you okay?" she gasped. "Am I—" He stared at her. "You could have been hurt. So could you." He crossed the space between them in 2 strides and cupped her face in his hands. His palms were warm, trembling slightly. "Don't ever do that again." "I didn't think—" "No, you didn't." His voice was rough. "Thank you." She looked up at him. His face was close, his eyes searching hers. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, but he didn't. Instead, he took her hand and examined it. "You're bleeding." She looked down. A thin cut across her palm, shallow, but stinging. She hadn't even felt it. "Come with me," he said. Cairo's private sitting room was smaller than she expected. A couch, a chair, a fireplace with embers still glowing. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with well-worn spines. He guided her to the couch and disappeared into an adjoining room. When he returned, he carried a first aid kit. "Let me see," he said, kneeling in front of her. She held out her hand. He cleaned the cut gently, his touch careful. Then he wrapped a bandage around her palm, his fingers steady. "There," he said softly. "Better. Thank you." He didn't let go of her hand. He just knelt there, looking at it, at the bandage, at her fingers. "Why did you do that?" he asked. "I told you. I didn't think." "No? I mean, why? You barely know me." She met his eyes. "Because you didn't deserve to be hurt." Something broke in his expression. He sat back on his heels, still holding her hand. "Amelia, A knock at the door interrupted him. "Your Majesty." A guard's voice. The intruder escaped through the east gate. Security is reviewing footage now. Cairo closed his eyes briefly, then stood. "Keep me informed." "Yes, sir." The footsteps retreated. Cairo turned back to Amelia. "You should rest." "So should you." I will, eventually. He helped her to her feet. I'll have a guard stationed outside your door tonight, just in case. Okay. They stood close, the fire crackling softly behind them. Rain pattered against the windows. Good night, Amelia, he said. Good night. But neither of them moved. Finally, Cairo stepped back. I'll walk you to your room. They moved through the quiet corridors together. When they reached her door, he waited until she was inside, then nodded to the guard taking position in the hallway. Amelia closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing. She looked down at the bandage on her hand. She could still feel the warmth of Cairo's fingers, the gentleness of his touch, and she realized with a jolt of fear and wonder that the whisper she'd made weeks ago, "I won't love him," was already a lie. The next morning, sunshine broke through the clouds. The palace garden sparkled with leftover rain. Amelia woke to a knock and found Lena at the door with breakfast. "Big news," Lena said, setting the tray down. "Everyone's talking about last night." "About the attack? About you? About how you saved the king's life?" Amelia's cheeks burned. I just reacted. Well, people noticed, even the ones who were whispering before." Lena grinned. "You're a bit of a hero now." "I don't want to be a hero." Too late. They ate together, and Lena filled her in on the gossip. The attacker was still at large, but security believed it was a lone actor, someone with a personal grudge, not part of a larger plot. Cairo was fine. Shaken, but fine. "And the king asked about you 3 times this morning," Lena added with a knowing smile. "He did?" "Mm-hmm. Wanted to make sure you slept well, that your hand didn't hurt, that you had everything you needed." Amelia's pulse quickened. Oh, she says. Lena laughed. "Amelia, the man is falling for you." "No, he's not." "Yes, he is. And you're falling for him too." "I can't. This isn't real, isn't it?" Amelia looked away. "It started as a transaction. That doesn't just change." "Why not?" "Because she was bought. Because she was here for money. Because the contract in Mr. Hargrove's folder said she owed Cairo a year, and after that year, she'd leave. But she didn't say any of that. She just shook her head." Lena squeezed her shoulder. "Just don't close your heart, okay? You deserve to be happy." That afternoon, Amelia sat in the library reading, or trying to. The book in her hands, a novel Lena had recommended, couldn't hold her attention. Her mind kept drifting back to last night, to Cairo's hands on her face, to the way he'd looked at her. Footsteps sounded behind her. "May I join you?" She turned. Cairo stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "Of course." He sat in the chair across from her. For a moment they just looked at each other. "How's your hand?" he asked. She held it up. "Fine. Barely hurts." "Good." Silence. Then Cairo leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I need to tell you something." Her stomach flipped. "Okay. Last night when you pushed me out of the way, I felt something I haven't felt in years." "What?" "Alive." He met her eyes. "I've been numb for so long, Amelia. Guarded, safe. But when you're near, I feel awake, and it terrifies me." Her breath caught. "I don't know what this is," he continued, "or what it's supposed to be. I know how we started. I know what the contract says, but He stopped, searching for words. "I want you to know that you're more than that to me, more than an arrangement." Tears pricked her eyes. "Cairo, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." She set the book aside and knelt in front of him, the way he'd knelt in front of her the night before. She took his hands. "I need to tell you something too," she said quietly. "I didn't come here for me. I came for my mother. She was dying. The medical bills were crushing us. I sold a year of my life because it was the only way to save hers." His face softened. "I suspected as much. But I also need you to know I didn't plan to care about you. I told myself I wouldn't, that I'd just survive the year and leave." Her voice cracked. "But I was wrong. I do care. Too much." He pulled her up onto the chair beside him, their knees touching. "Then stay, not because of a contract, not because of money. Stay because you want to." "For how long?" "For as long as you'll have me." She looked at him, at the vulnerability in his eyes, the hope, and she nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Yes." He smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his whole face. Then, slowly, carefully, he leaned forward and kissed her. It was soft, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, Amelia rested her forehead against his. "This is crazy," she whispered. "I know. We barely know each other." "I know. But it feels right." "It does." They sat together in the quiet library, hands intertwined, the afternoon sun spilling through the windows, and for the first time since she'd arrived, Amelia felt like she was home. The days that followed were the happiest Amelia had ever known. She and Cairo spent mornings walking in the gardens, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood, the loneliness of growing up royal, the pressure to be perfect. She told him about her mother's laughter, the way they danced in the kitchen when times were good. They visited the market together one afternoon, Cairo in simple clothes, trying to blend in. Amelia laughed at his awkward attempts to haggle with vendors. He bought her a bracelet made of tiny wooden beads, and she wore it every day. In the evenings, they read together in the library. He introduced her to poetry, old verses about love and loss and longing. She read them aloud, stumbling over words, and he corrected her gently, his voice warm with affection. One night they danced in the empty salon, the only music the sound of their footsteps and quiet laughter, and every night they fell asleep holding hands on the chaise in his sitting room, candles flickering low. Lena watched them with knowing smiles. Even the staff began to soften, seeing the way the king's face lit up when Amelia entered a room. But not everyone was pleased. Malik stood in the shadows of the east corridor, watching Cairo and Amelia walk past, their heads bent close in conversation. His jaw tightened. He'd been watching for weeks now, watching the way they looked at each other, the way Cairo smiled, a smile Malik hadn't seen in years. And he'd been digging. The information he'd gathered troubled him. Hargrove's records, the negotiated payment terms, the letters Amelia had sent to the accounts office, asking detailed questions. It didn't add up. Or maybe it did. Maybe Amelia was exactly what she appeared to be, a desperate woman trying to save her mother. Or maybe she was something else, something dangerous. Malik thought of the woman who'd betrayed Cairo before, the one who'd nearly destroyed him. He couldn't let it happen again. So that afternoon, while Amelia wrote a letter to her mother in the study, Malik made his decision. He would find the truth, whatever it took, even if it meant breaking both their hearts. The study was quiet, except for the scratch of pen on paper. Amelia sat at the small desk near the window, sunlight warming her shoulders as she wrote to her mother. "Dear Mama, I hope this letter finds you feeling stronger. The doctors say you're doing well, and that makes my heart so full I could burst. I want to tell you something. I want to tell you the truth about where I am and why, but not yet. Not in a letter. When I see you next, I promise I'll explain everything. And I hope you'll understand. For now, just know that I'm safe, that I'm happy, that I'm learning what it means to be cared for. I love you more than words can say. Your Amelia." She folded the letter carefully and sealed it in an envelope. Then she leaned back in the chair and closed her eyes, letting the warmth soak into her skin. A soft knock made her look up. Cairo stood in the doorway, watching her with that gentle expression he wore more and more these days. "Writing to your mother?" he asked. "Yes, I wish I could tell her everything." "Why don't you?" "Because I don't know how to explain this without it sounding—" She trailed off, searching for the word. "Unbelievable," she smiled. "Yes." He crossed the room and sat on the edge of the desk, close enough that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes. "I've been thinking about something." "What?" "The contract. The arrangement that brought you here." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I want to end it." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "I want to void the contract, release you from any obligation." "But—" He took her hand. "Let me finish. I want to end it because I don't want you here as part of a transaction. I want you here because you choose to be, as my equal, my partner." Tears blurred her vision. "Cairo, stay with me, Amelia. Not as someone I hired, but as someone I—" He stopped, his voice catching. "As someone I love." The words hung in the air between them, enormous and fragile. "You love me," she whispered. "I do. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But yes, I love you." She stood and cupped his face in her hands. "I love you too." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. She buried her face in his shoulder, breathing him in, the scent of sandalwood and something warm and distinctly him. "I want to tell my mother the truth," she said against his shirt, "before we move forward. She deserves to know." "Of course, we'll go together if you'd like." She pulled back to look at him. "Really? Really? I want to meet the woman who raised you. I want her to know my intentions are honorable." Amelia laughed through her tears. "Your intentions? Very honorable." He kissed her forehead. "Extremely honorable. How honorable are we talking?" "Marriage honorable." Her breath caught. "Cairo, I'm not proposing. Not yet. Not until your mother knows the truth and you're free of any obligation. But when I do propose, and I will, I want it to be because we both choose this life together. No contracts, no conditions." She kissed him then, pouring everything she felt into it, all the fear and hope and love she'd been holding back. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Cairo rested his forehead against hers. "Stay right here," he said softly. "I have something for you." He left and returned a moment later carrying a small velvet box. Not a ring box, something flatter, wider. "I was going to wait," he said, "but I can't." She opened it. Inside lay a delicate necklace, a pendant shaped like two hands clasped together, carved from dark wood and inlaid with gold. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "It's a symbol. In my culture it represents partnership, two people choosing to walk through life hand in hand." He took it from the box and fastened it around her neck. "I want you to have it, as a promise." She touched the pendant warm against her skin. "I'll never take it off." They stood together by the window, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the gardens below. Neither of them noticed the figure standing in the hallway just beyond the door. Malik had heard everything, and his heart sank like a stone. That evening, Malik locked himself in the palace archives. Rows of filing cabinets lined the walls, each drawer meticulously labeled. He'd been putting this off, telling himself he was protecting Cairo by investigating Amelia. But the truth was more complicated. He was afraid that if Amelia was genuine, he'd lose his cousin to someone else. Afraid that if she wasn't, he'd watch Cairo's heart break all over again. Either way, he lost. But he had to know. He pulled the drawer labeled External Contracts Recent and flipped through folders until he found what he was looking for. A copy of the agreement between Cairo and Hargrove's agency, the contract that had brought Amelia to the palace. He read through it carefully, noting the payment structure, the terms, the conditions. Then he found something else. A letter, tucked into the back of the folder. Not part of the official contract, but correspondence between Hargrove and someone else. Malik unfolded it, his hands shaking slightly. "Mr. Hargrove, regarding the final transfer discussed, please confirm that all leverage documentation will be made available as stipulated. The client must have access to account records and transfer confirmations to ensure compliance on both ends. Time is of the essence. My mother's condition worsens daily. A. Carter." Malik's blood ran cold. Leverage documentation. He read the line again and again, each time his heart sinking further. This was it. Proof that Amelia had been planning something from the beginning. She'd made sure she had documentation, made sure she could track the money, made sure she had leverage over Cairo if she needed it. He thought of the way Cairo looked at her, the softness in his cousin's voice when he spoke her name, the smile that had finally returned after 5 long years. And now this. Malik folded the letter and slipped it into his jacket pocket. Then he closed the drawer and walked toward Cairo's office, his steps heavy with dread. Cairo was reviewing documents when Malik entered without knocking. "We need to talk," Malik said. Cairo looked up, sensing the urgency in his cousin's voice. "What's wrong?" Malik closed the door and set the letter on the desk. "I found this in the archives. It's from Amelia, written before she came here." Cairo picked it up, frowning as he read. Malik watched his cousin's face shift from confusion to hurt, to something harder, something closed off and cold. "Where did you get this?" Cairo asked quietly. "The contract files. It was correspondence with Hargrove. And you were looking through the files because I was worried about you. Because I've seen you fall before and I couldn't stand by and watch it happen again." Cairo set the letter down carefully, as if it might burn him. "What do you think this means?" "I think it means she's been planning to use you from the beginning. She made sure she had documentation, made sure she had leverage. Maybe she's planning to blackmail you. Maybe she wants more money, I don't know. But it's not innocent, Cairo. You don't know that. Don't I?" Malik's voice rose. "Look at the words, cousin. Leverage documentation. Ensure compliance." She was setting up an insurance policy from day one. Cairo stood abruptly and walked to the window. Outside the sun was setting, painting the gardens in shades of gold and amber. Somewhere down there, Amelia was probably walking with Lena, laughing about something small and ordinary. "Maybe there's an explanation," Cairo said. "Maybe. Or maybe she's exactly like the last one. Maybe she saw a lonely king and a fat bank account and decided to secure her future." "Stop. I'm trying to protect you." "I said stop." Cairo's voice cracked like thunder. The room fell silent. Malik stepped back, stunned. He'd never heard Cairo shout like that. Not at him. Not at anyone. "I'm sorry." Malik said quietly. But you needed to see it. Cairo turned, and the look on his face broke Malik's heart. It was the same look he'd worn 5 years ago, when the tabloids had published his secrets, and his fiancée's betrayal became public knowledge. Lost, shattered, alone. Get out, Cairo said. Cairo? I said get out. Malik left, closing the door softly behind him. Cairo stood alone in the growing darkness, staring at the letter on his desk. His mind raced through every conversation he'd had with Amelia, every touch, every whispered confession. Had it all been a lie, or was there something he was missing? He thought of the way she'd pushed him out of the Blade's path without hesitation, the way she'd guided him through his nightmare, the way she'd looked at him this afternoon when he'd told her he loved her. But he also thought of the woman who'd smiled at him for 2 years while secretly recording their conversations, who'd traded his private pain for magazine covers and interview fees. He'd sworn never to be that vulnerable again, and yet here he was. He picked up the letter, folded it, and slipped it into his pocket. Then he called for a guard. "Find Miss Carter," he said, his voice hollow. "Bring her to me." Amelia was in the garden when the guard found her. She'd been picking jasmine with Lena, laughing about a story from Lena's childhood. The air smelled sweet, and the sky had deepened to indigo. "Miss Carter," the guard said, "the king requests your presence. Immediately." Something in his tone made her stomach clench. "Is everything okay? Please, miss. This way." Lena gave her hand a quick squeeze. "I'm sure it's nothing." But Amelia wasn't sure. Not at all. She followed the guard through the corridors, her heart pounding. When they reached Cairo's office, the guard knocked once and opened the door. Cairo stood by the window, his back to her. He didn't turn when she entered. "Cairo," she said softly. "Close the door." She did. The click of the latch sounded impossibly loud. "Is something wrong?" He turned then, and the look on his face made her blood run cold. All the warmth was gone, all the softness. He looked at her the way he had that first night. Distant, guarded, a stranger. "I need to ask you something," he said, "and I need you to tell me the truth. Of course, anything." He pulled a letter from his pocket and held it up. "Did you write this?" She squinted at it in the dim light. "I can't see it from here." He crossed the room and handed it to her. She read it once, twice. Her hands began to shake. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "That doesn't matter." "Did you write it?" "Yes, but why did you need leverage documentation?" "What? No, that's not. You're reading it wrong." "Then explain it to me." His voice was hard, cold. "Explain why you made sure you had access to all the financial records. Explain what you were planning to use them for." "I wasn't planning anything. I just needed to make sure." She stopped, her mind racing. "Cairo, please, let me explain." "Go ahead." She took a shaky breath. "When Hargrove first approached me with the arrangement, I was terrified. I didn't know you. I didn't know if the money would really go to my mother's accounts. I didn't know if this was legitimate or some kind of scam. So I asked for documentation, proof that the payments would actually happen. That's all leverage meant. I wanted proof that you'd hold up your end of the deal, the same way the contract proved I'd hold up mine. And the account records? I wanted to make sure the hospital got paid. My mother was dying, Cairo. I couldn't afford to trust blindly. I needed to verify that the money arrived where it was supposed to." He stared at her, his jaw tight. "That's the truth," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I wasn't trying to trap you or use you or whatever you think. I was just trying to save my mother." "How do I know you're telling the truth?" The question hit her like a slap. "Because I love you. Because everything I've said, everything we've shared, it's real." That's what she said too. "I'm not her," Amelia's voice broke. "I'm not whoever hurt you before. I'm me, and I've been honest with you about everything." "Have you?" "Yes. What else do you want me to say?" He turned away from her, his shoulders rigid. "I want you to leave." The room tilted. "What?" "You'll depart at dawn. A car will be arranged. The financial agreement with your mother's hospital will be honored in full. I'm not a monster, but I can't—" He stopped, his voice cracking. "I can't do this. Cairo, please." "You're dismissed, Miss Carter." The formality of it gutted her. She stood there, letter crumpled in her shaking hands, tears blurring her vision. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "Please." He didn't turn around. "Good night." A guard appeared at the door, as if summoned. Amelia looked at Cairo's back one last time, willing him to turn around, to see her, to believe her. But he didn't move, so she left. The guard escorted her back to her suite in silence. When the door closed behind her, Amelia collapsed onto the bed and sobbed into the pillows. Everything, all the happiness, all the hope, all the love, shattered in an instant. Lena found her an hour later, still crying. She didn't ask questions. She just climbed onto the bed and held Amelia while she fell apart. "He doesn't believe me," Amelia gasped between sobs. "He thinks I was using him." "What happened?" Amelia told her everything, about the letter, about Malik's suspicions, about the way Cairo had looked at her with cold, empty eyes. "He told me to leave at dawn," she finished. "It's over." Lena's face hardened. "That stubborn, scared fool. He's been hurt before. I understand why he's afraid to trust. Understanding doesn't make it hurt less." "No," Amelia whispered. "It doesn't." They sat together in the darkness, the palace silent around them. Finally, Lena said, "You should write him a letter, a real one. Tell him everything, the whole truth about why you came, what you were thinking, how you feel. Leave it for him before you go." "What if he doesn't read it?" "Then at least you'll know you tried." Amelia nodded slowly. "Okay." She pulled out paper and a pen, and as the clock ticked toward midnight, she poured her heart onto the page. "Dear Cairo, I know you won't believe me. I know trust is hard for you and I understand why. But I need you to know the truth, the whole truth, even if it changes nothing. My mother was dying. The bills were crushing us. When Hargrove offered me a way to save her, I took it. Not because I wanted money for myself, not because I saw an opportunity to take advantage of a wealthy man, but because I would have done anything, sold anything, sacrificed anything to keep her alive. The letter Malik found was written in fear, fear that the deal wasn't real, fear that I'd sell a year of my life and my mother would die anyway. So I asked for documentation, for proof, not to use against you, but to protect the one person I love most in the world. I never planned to fall in love with you. I told myself I wouldn't, that I'd survive the year and leave. But you made that impossible. You showed me kindness when you didn't have to. You defended me when others whispered. You trusted me with your nightmares and your fears and the softest parts of yourself, and I fell in love with you. Not with your crown or your wealth, but with the man who dances badly in empty rooms and reads poetry by candlelight, and whose smile makes the whole world feel brighter. I'm so sorry you were hurt before. I'm sorry that someone you trusted betrayed you, but I'm not her. I never was, and I never will be. If you want proof of my intentions, look at the receipt I kept. It's in my duffel bag, in an envelope addressed to my mother. I kept it because I wanted her to know someday what I'd done to save her life, not because I planned to use it against you. I love you. I will always love you, and I'm sorry I couldn't make you believe that. Goodbye, Amelia." She sealed the letter and tucked the receipt, the one she'd kept hidden all these weeks, inside the envelope with it. Then she set both on the dresser where Cairo would see them when he came to the empty room tomorrow. Then she packed. It didn't take long. She'd come with almost nothing, and she'd leave with the same. The bracelet he'd bought her at the market, the pendant he'd given her this afternoon. She touched it once, then carefully removed it and placed it beside the letter. He should have it back. It was too precious to take. Just before dawn, Lena came to say goodbye. They hugged for a long time, neither wanting to let go. "You're a good person, Amelia," Lena whispered. "Don't let this make you forget that. Thank you for everything. Take care of yourself. You too." The car arrived as the sky began to lighten. Amelia took one last look at the palace, at the gardens where she'd walked with Cairo, at the balcony where she'd found him in the grip of nightmares, at the window of his office where a light still burned. Then she climbed into the car. As they pulled away, she watched the palace grow smaller in the rear window until it disappeared entirely, and she cried. Cairo didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk, the letter Malik had found spread before him, reading it over and over, trying to find some hidden meaning, some proof that he was right to send her away, but all he found was doubt. He thought of Amelia's face when he'd confronted her, the shock, the hurt, the desperate way she'd tried to explain. He thought of the woman who'd betrayed him before, how calm she'd been when confronted, how easily the lies had spilled from her lips. Amelia hadn't been calm. She'd been devastated. As the sky began to lighten, Cairo stood and walked through the empty corridors to Amelia's suite. He knocked. No answer. He opened the door. The room was empty, the bed neatly made, the closet bare, and on the dresser, a letter. His hands shook as he picked it up. Inside he found her words, honest, raw, heartbreaking, and beneath them a receipt. He read it 3 times, his eyes blurring with tears. Then he saw the pendant, the symbol of partnership he'd given her just yesterday. She'd left it behind, and he understood what he'd done. He ran from the room, shouting for Malik. His cousin appeared, half-dressed, alarmed. The letter, Cairo gasped. You read it wrong. We read it wrong. What? She wasn't planning to use me. She was protecting her mother. The leverage was just proof that I'd pay. That's all it ever was. Malik's face went pale. Oh God, where is she? Cairo, where is she? The car left 10 minutes ago. Cairo's legs nearly gave out. He gripped the wall to steady himself. I'll call them back, Malik said quickly. I'll have them turn around. No. Cairo straightened, his jaw set. No entourage, no guards, just me. He met Malik's eyes. Have my car brought around. I'm going after her. Cairo, I'm so sorry. Later. Right now I need to fix this. He didn't change clothes, didn't take his crown, didn't bring security. He just took the letter, the receipt, and the pendant, and he ran. The apartment building looked smaller than Amelia remembered. Grey concrete walls, cracked sidewalk, a window air conditioner humming in the unit above her mother's. The driver had dropped her off without a word, the palace car pulling away as quietly as it had arrived 3 months ago. 3 months. It felt like a lifetime. Amelia stood on the sidewalk, her duffel weighing heavy on her shoulder. She'd stopped crying an hour ago, her tears all dried up. Now she just felt hollow, empty. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step an effort. At the door she paused. Her mother would ask questions. Want to know why she was back early from school? Want to know why her eyes were red and swollen? But Amelia couldn't lie anymore. She knocked. Footsteps inside. The chain rattled. The door opened. Evelyn Carter stood there in her faded blue robe, oxygen tube in her nose, but standing on her own. Her face was fuller than it had been. Color had returned to her cheeks. She looked stronger, healthier. Amelia. Her mother's eyes widened. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? I thought... Hi, Mama. Amelia's voice cracked. Evelyn took one look at her daughter's face and pulled her inside, wrapping her thin arms around her. Oh, honey, come here, come here. Amelia collapsed into her mother's embrace and started crying again after all. Great, shaking sobs that she'd been holding back for the last hour. Evelyn held her tight, stroking her hair, whispering soft comforts the way she had when Amelia was small. It's okay, baby. It's okay. I've got you. They stood that way for a long time, in the tiny entryway with its worn carpet and peeling wallpaper, until Amelia's breathing steadied. Let's get you some tea, Evelyn said gently. They sat at the small kitchen table, the same table where Amelia had signed the contract months ago. Evelyn poured tea into chipped mugs and waited, patient and steady. I need to tell you something, Amelia said finally, and I need you to let me get through it before you say anything. Okay, honey, so Amelia told her. Everything about Mr. Hargrove and the contract, about selling a year of her life to save her mother, about the palace and Cairo and the way she'd fallen in love when she'd promised herself she wouldn't, about the letter and the misunderstanding and the way he'd looked at her with such cold suspicion. And now, it's over, she finished, her voice barely a whisper. He sent me away. He thinks I was using him and I can't make him believe the truth. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment, her hands wrapped around her mug. You did that for me, she finally said. You sold a year of your life? Of course I did. You're my mother. Oh, Amelia. Tears spilled down Evelyn's cheeks. I never wanted that. I never wanted you to sacrifice yourself for me. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I know you would. That's what breaks my heart. Evelyn reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. But honey, you deserve to be happy too. You deserve to be loved. I thought I had that. For a little while I really thought... Her voice broke. Tell me about him. Not the king part. Just the man. So Amelia did. She told her about Cairo's gentleness, his vulnerability, the way he read poetry and danced badly, and how his whole face changed when he smiled. She told her about his nightmares and his fears, and how he'd been hurt before. He sounds like someone worth fighting for, Evelyn said softly. He doesn't want me to fight for him. He made that clear. Maybe. Or maybe he's just scared. Evelyn squeezed her hand. Fear makes people do foolish things. I should know. When your father left, I was so afraid of being hurt again that I almost didn't let myself love you properly. Almost held myself back to protect my heart. But love isn't safe, sweetheart. It's terrifying and risky, and it asks everything of us, but it's worth it. Amelia wiped her eyes. What if he never believes me? Then you hold your head high and you move forward. But at least you'll know you told the truth. They sat together in the quiet kitchen, the afternoon sun slanting through the window. Outside, children played in the street. A dog barked. Life continued, ordinary and steady. And then someone knocked on the door. Evelyn stood to answer it, but Amelia stopped her. "I'll get it, you rest." She expected maybe a neighbor or a delivery driver. She did not expect to open the door and find Cairo standing there. He looked wrecked. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed and shadowed. His hair, usually so perfectly kept, stuck up in places like he'd been running his hands through it. He had no crown, no guards, no royal bearing. He just looked like a man who'd lost everything. "Cairo," Amelia breathed. "I read your letter." His voice was rough, strained. "All of it, and I am so sorry." She couldn't speak, couldn't move. "I was wrong," he continued, "about everything. You were telling the truth, and I was too afraid to see it. Too broken from before to trust what was right in front of me." He pulled something from his pocket, her letter, creased from being folded and unfolded. "You kept the receipt to show your mother, not to use against me. You asked for documentation because you were terrified, not because you were scheming, and I—" His voice cracked. "I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too scared to believe in it." Tears streamed down Amelia's face. "You hurt me. I know, and I will spend the rest of my life making up for it if you'll let me. But first I need you to know something." He stepped closer. "I love you, Amelia Carter, not because of a contract, not because of an arrangement, but because you are brave and kind and honest, because you saved my life without thinking twice, because you showed me what it means to choose someone every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Cairo, I should have believed you. I should have trusted you. And I'm so sorry I didn't. You deserved better than that, better than me. That's not true, isn't it? I doubted you at the first test. I sent you away without even giving you a chance to fully explain. What kind of man does that to the woman he loves?" "A scared one," Amelia said quietly. "A hurt one. A human one." He looked at her, hope flickering in his eyes. "Can you forgive me?" She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But the hurt was still so fresh, so raw. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. He nodded, accepting that. "I understand, but I need you to know I'm not giving up. I came here to apologize, yes, but also to ask if you'll give me another chance. A real chance. Not as a king and a contract, but as two people who choose each other." "Excuse me," a soft voice said behind Amelia. They both turned. Evelyn stood in the doorway to the kitchen, one hand on her oxygen tank, the other on her hip. "Are you King Cairo?" she asked. He straightened slightly, though his exhaustion showed through. "Yes, ma'am, I am. The one who paid for my medical treatment?" "Yes." "And the one who broke my daughter's heart?" Cairo flinched. "Yes, I did, and I'm deeply sorry for that." Evelyn studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "Come inside, both of you. We're not having this conversation in the hallway where Mrs. Chen can hear every word." Amelia stepped aside and Cairo entered, looking uncertain in a way she'd never seen before. In the palace, he commanded every room. Here, in this tiny apartment with its second-hand furniture and worn carpet, he looked lost. "Sit," Evelyn said, gesturing to the couch. They sat, not touching, but close enough that Amelia could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Evelyn eased into her chair across from them and folded her hands. "I want to understand something. Amelia tells me you've been hurt before, that someone you trusted betrayed you." "Yes," Cairo said quietly. "And when you found that letter, you assumed my daughter was doing the same thing." "Yes, I was wrong. You were." Evelyn's voice was firm, but not unkind. "But I also understand fear. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of being used. It makes us see danger where there isn't any. Makes us push away the very thing we need most." Cairo looked down at his hands. "I don't have an excuse. I should have trusted her." "No, you shouldn't have." Both Amelia and Cairo looked up, surprised. Evelyn continued, "Trust isn't automatic. It's built over time, with actions, not just words. You didn't know my daughter well enough yet to trust her completely. That's fair. But what isn't fair is sending her away without listening, without fighting for the truth." "You're right," Cairo said. "Absolutely right. So here's what I want to know." Evelyn leaned forward. "If Amelia gives you another chance, and I'm not saying she should, what will you do differently?" Cairo was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, "I'll choose communication over assumption. I'll ask questions instead of making judgments. I'll remember that love means giving someone the benefit of the doubt even when I'm scared, and I'll never, ever make her feel like she has to prove her worth to me again." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Good answer." She turned to Amelia. "What do you think, honey?" Amelia looked at Cairo, really looked at him, at the exhaustion in his face, the regret in his eyes. the way his hands trembled slightly in his lap. "I have conditions," she said. "Anything," Cairo said immediately. "No more secrets, not from me, not from each other. If something scares you or worries you or makes you doubt, you tell me. We talk about it, we don't let it fester." "Agreed. And we make decisions together. Not you making them for me. Not me hiding things to protect you. Together. Yes, absolutely. And you have to apologize to Malik." That surprised him. "To Malik? Why?" "Because he was trying to protect you. He made a mistake, yes, but his heart was in the right place. And if we're going to move forward, I need to know that I'm not coming between you and your family." Cairo's expression softened. "You're remarkable. You know that?" "I'm practical," she corrected, but a small smile tugged at her lips. "So does this mean—" He didn't finish the question, afraid to hope. Amelia took a deep breath. Then she reached out and took his hand. "It means I forgive you, and it means we can try again. Slowly, carefully, but together." The relief that flooded his face was almost painful to witness. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "Thank you. You won't regret this." "I better not." Evelyn smiled from her chair. "Now that that's settled, who wants more tea? And Cairo, you look like you could use a sandwich." They spent the afternoon there, the three of them, talking. Cairo told Evelyn stories about the palace, about his work, about his hopes for his country. She told him stories about Amelia as a child, how stubborn she'd been, how fiercely loyal, how she'd once tried to adopt every stray cat in the neighborhood. "Mama, stop," Amelia said, her cheeks flushing. "I'm just painting an accurate picture," Evelyn said innocently. Cairo grinned. As the sun began to set, casting golden light through the small windows, Evelyn excused herself. "I need to rest a bit. These old bones tire easily, even with all the fancy treatment." "It's not old bones," Amelia said. "You're doing so well. Thanks to you, sweetheart. Thanks to both of you." Evelyn looked at Cairo. "You take care of my girl. She's precious." "I know," Cairo said seriously. "I promise I will." When Evelyn had gone to her room, Amelia and Cairo sat together on the couch. His arm was around her shoulders. Her head rested against his chest. They didn't speak for a long time, just breathed together, finding their rhythm again. "There's something else I need to tell you," Cairo said finally. "What?" "When I sent you away, I didn't stop the payments to your mother's hospital." Amelia sat up and looked at him. "What?" "I know what you're thinking, that I was trying to keep some kind of hold over you, but that's not why I did it. I did it because your mother deserves to be healthy, regardless of what happens between us, and because I promised to take care of it, and I don't break my promises, even when I'm being an idiot about everything else." Tears filled Amelia's eyes again. "You kept paying, even after you sent me away?" "Of course I did. Her health was never contingent on us. It was the right thing to do." She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of forgiveness. When they pulled apart, Cairo reached into his pocket and pulled out the pendant, the two hands clasped together. "You left this behind. I thought you should have it back." "No." He fastened it around her neck again. "It's yours, it always was. This represents us, Amelia, choosing each other, walking together, and I want you to wear it as a reminder that I choose you, every day, every moment. I choose you." She touched the pendant, warm against her skin. "I choose you too." "Good, because I have a question." "What?" He slid off the couch and knelt on the worn carpet in front of her. Amelia's breath caught. "I know I said I wouldn't propose until everything was settled, but I can't wait, because life is short and uncertain and I've already wasted too much time being afraid. So Amelia Carter," he took her hand, "will you marry me? Not because of a contract, not because of obligation, but because I love you and I can't imagine my life without you in it. Will you choose me every day for the rest of our lives?" "Cairo, She looked at him, at this powerful man on his knees in her mother's tiny apartment, offering her everything. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you." He pulled a ring from his pocket, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the fading sunlight. He slipped it onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he stood and pulled her to her feet and kissed her deeply, pouring all his love and regret and hope into it. When they broke apart, both breathless, Amelia laughed. "My mother is going to pretend she wasn't listening at the door." "I don't mind. She should hear this. Everyone should." They stood together in the golden light, holding each other, the weight of the last few days finally lifting. "When do we tell everyone?" Amelia asked. "Soon, but not tonight. Tonight I just want to be here with you, is that okay?" "More than okay." They returned to the palace the next evening, not in a grand procession, but quietly, together. Lena was waiting at the entrance, and when she saw them, Her face broke into the widest smile. "You came back," she cried, pulling Amelia into a fierce hug. "He convinced me. Good, it's about time." Lena looked at Cairo. "You scared us all, Your Majesty, driving off alone like that." "I had to. Some things are worth the risk." They walked through the palace together, and Amelia noticed that the staff watched them with different eyes now. Warmer, kinder. Word had spread, it seemed, about what had happened, about Cairo's apology, about his proposal. They found Malik in the library, staring out the window. When he heard them enter, he turned, his face drawn with worry. "Cousin," Cairo said, "we need to talk." Malik nodded, resignation in his eyes. "I know. I owe you both an apology. What I did, reading that letter the way I did, jumping to conclusions, it was wrong. I was trying to protect you, Cairo, but I nearly destroyed the best thing in your life." "You made a mistake," Cairo said. "We all did. But Amelia—" Malik turned to her. "I'm sorry. Truly. I judged you unfairly. I let my fear cloud my judgment, and I hurt you. I hope someday you can forgive me." Amelia stepped forward. "I forgive you, Malik. I understand why you were worried. And I hope that going forward, we can build trust between us, real trust." Relief flooded his face. "Thank you, that's more than I deserve." "Well, you'd better deserve it," Amelia said with a small smile, "because you're going to be family soon." Malik's eyes widened as he noticed the ring on her finger. "We're engaged," Cairo said, taking Amelia's hand, "and I need my cousin by my side when we make it official." Malik's eyes grew wet. "It would be my honor." He pulled Cairo into a tight embrace, then more hesitantly hugged Amelia too. "Welcome to the family." Truly, the wedding was small, nothing like the grand royal affair people expected. They held it in the shade garden where Cairo and Amelia had first really talked. Just a handful of witnesses, Evelyn, who watched via video call from her apartment, though Cairo had secretly arranged for her to come visit once she was strong enough. Lena, beaming with joy. Malik, standing as Cairo's best man. Dr. Sefu, the kind palace physician, who'd become a friend to both of them. Amelia wore a simple white dress, flowers in her hair. Cairo wore traditional attire, handsome and regal, but somehow more himself than ever. They spoke their vows beneath the jasmine vines, voices steady and clear. "I promise to choose you," Cairo said, "every day in every way, in joy and in hardship, in doubt and in certainty. I promise to communicate, to listen, to believe in you, even when fear whispers otherwise. I promise to build a life with you, not above you or around you, but beside you, as partners, as equals, as two people who found each other against all odds and decided that love was worth the risk." Amelia smiled through happy tears. "I promise to choose you too, to trust you with my fears and my hopes, to stand beside you, not behind you, to remind you of your worth when you forget, to dance badly with you in empty rooms and read poetry by candlelight. I promise to love you, not the crown, not the palace, but the man who showed me what it means to be truly seen. For all my days, I choose you." When they kissed, the small gathering erupted in applause. Evelyn's image on the video screen showed her wiping tears from her eyes. "My beautiful girl," she said, "I'm so proud of you. I love you, Mama. I love you too, sweetheart. Both of you." That evening, they had a private dinner for two in Cairo's, now their suite. The same long table where they'd eaten that first awkward meal, but this time there was no distance, no formality, just laughter and easy conversation. "Remember how terrified you were that first night?" Cairo asked, grinning. "Remember how cold you were?" "I was not cold, I was reserved." "You were cold," Amelia laughed, "like a beautiful, intimidating ice sculpture. And now? Now you're my beautiful, occasionally intimidating husband." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I still can't believe you're here, that you chose this, chose me. I almost didn't. You made it pretty hard there for a while." "Don't remind me." He winced. "I'll be making up for that for years." "Good. I'll hold you to that." They finished dinner and walked out to the terrace, the same terrace where Amelia had found him trapped in nightmares months ago. But tonight, there were no nightmares, just stars and cool air and the distant lights of the city. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," Cairo said. "What's that?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for pushing me out of the way of that blade, for guiding me through my nightmares, literally and figuratively, for teaching me that love doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave." "You taught me that too," Amelia said softly. "You showed me that I was worth more than what I could sacrifice, that I deserved partnership, not just survival." They stood together on the terrace, the city glowing below them. holding each other as the night settled in. "What do you want to do tomorrow?" Cairo asked. "Something normal, something ordinary." "Like what?" "Let's go to the market, buy vegetables, make dinner together, maybe take a walk, just be two people who love each other." He smiled. "I'd like that. And then the day after that we'll do it again. And the day after that. We'll choose each other every ordinary day for the rest of our lives." "Every ordinary day," he agreed. "No contracts, no conditions. Just promises." They kissed under the stars, and somewhere in the palace, Lena smiled to herself as she passed by. Somewhere across the city, Evelyn said a prayer of gratitude for her daughter's happiness, and somewhere deep in the palace archives, the old contract gathered dust, obsolete and forgotten, because this was never about a transaction. It was always about choice, about two broken people finding each other in the dark and deciding that love, messy, risky, terrifying love, was worth everything. And as Amelia fell asleep that night in Cairo's arms, the pendant warm against her skin, she thought about the girl she'd been 3 months ago, the girl who'd climbed into that black sedan and whispered, "I won't love him." She smiled in the darkness. Some promises were meant to be broken, and some loves were meant to change everything. The end.